So, just a heads up, my camera and audio might sound pretty cruddy because all I'm using is a Canon camera and my room is pretty wide, so sorry about that. Hey guys, so this is my first movie review for the channel, and I was kind of stuck on which one to start off with because there's just so many movies to choose from. But I've been seeing a lot of these videos pop up on my YouTube notifications, and I thought, why not? So I watched Hamilton on Disney Plus. I'm a big Broadway fan. I had the pleasure of seeing Anastasia and Aladdin on Broadway in New York, which was an experience. And the only experience I had with Hamilton was my best friend. She introduced me to the soundtrack, which got me into the whole musical, so I had no idea what it was like to see the actual play. When I heard it was coming to Disney Plus, I don't know how I felt about it because listening to the soundtrack, I knew that I just had a feeling that this wasn't something I was expecting for Disney to put on their platform. But I kind of understand because once the pandemic hit, that's when Broadway announced that they were going to stop doing shows for the rest of the year, which was a very safe move for them. I just knew that it was on Disney Plus. I'm a Broadway fan. I have to see it. And again, the only experience I've had with Hamilton is listening to the soundtrack, which is so good. Like, there are just so many iconic songs. The score and lyrics are so distinctive. Like, as soon as you hear it, you know it's Hamilton. It's all thanks to Lin-Manuel, possibly one of my favorite celebrities at the moment. So here's how I'm going to do this review and my future reviews. I follow this website. It explains to you what the elements of a movie is like. It'll go over 5 aspects of it. And ever since I read that article, that's how I've been rating my movies. So I will start with each element for Hamilton based on what I've seen so far. And if you're interested, I'll put the link in my description of the article that I read. So here we go. First element we're going to cover for Hamilton is the literary design. Okay, so everybody knew going into this film that they're going to get a little history buff on Alexander Hamilton. Terrible with history, so I knew I was going to learn a lot, and boy, did I learn a lot. What I didn't expect was that this whole entire show had little to no dialogue. I listened to the soundtrack, and I thought that was just what it was, the soundtrack. I didn't expect it to be the entire musical just without visuals. So watching this musical, like, for the first 5 minutes, I was like, are we really going to go in with no dialogue, no pause? And I had this whole debate to myself, thinking, was that a good thing or was that a bad thing? Because I found myself comparing it to Les Mis, where Les Mis had little to no dialogue. But at the same time, I felt like there was a bit of a break at times. But you know what? With Hamilton, I feel like that kind of works in its favor. I don't know how. It's like you get that feeling of, something happened for a reason, but you felt like that's very fitting. I think I could say that for the little to no dialogue for Hamilton and the characters. I think it is a brilliant idea that they used different actors for some characters, but same actors for others. Specifically, John Lawrence, Lafayette, Hercules, and Mariah Reynolds. You could take that in any kind of way when you watch the show. A very good character study of like why they kept these actors for 2 different characters. To me, with the Mariah Reynolds, the actress who plays her, and Peggy Schuyler. I feel like that's a symbolism for Alexander Hamilton's third love. That he loved Peggy like a sister, but then he also loved this other woman named Mariah Reynolds. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like I feel like you could make a meaning out of that. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments of why you think they used the same actors. As for the first half and second half, it kind of was a bit slow in the first half because they were throwing song after song, which I didn't mind. But the second half is really where things picked up, where you really focus on the story and what goes down, as if like they were focusing on that more. The actors, Lin-Manuel, just gave so much emotion to his character Alexander Hamilton, his relationships that he built, even with his chemistry with Eliza Schuyler. It's very brief. I noticed that, like, I didn't really feel their romance in the first half, but then the second half kicked in. You really feel his love for her, their love for each other, despite everything that happened. I remember hearing there was controversy about covering Hamilton because the characters in real life were not great people, but I'm glad that they still kept the story because with history you gotta learn people and their actions, even if they did some bad stuff. Like you gotta learn from that. You can't just erase it. You just once you learn it, then you can know how you can do things better should you repeat that course of action. I think that's why I love Hamilton so much because they're covering a story about a famous American historian who's who has done some bad stuff in his life, but they don't glorify it. They directly cover it and they explain what happened afterwards. We could easily just try to forget what he did, but no, the movie chose to remind you what happened, the consequences that happened, and how they reacted towards it. I think that's a very bold move to do, and they did it so well. Now we're going to cover visual design, and my goodness, I don't know if I'd be willing to pay that much money to go see it, but I'd be really torn about it because watching this musical in the film version was a spectacular because oh my goodness, how they shot everything with the costumes, lighting, blocking, it's just it all fit together and it was just amazing. Specifically, my favorite has to be Satisfied, where Angelica is giving her toast, and then as soon as the rewind happened, it's shot so well. Like everything's moving in backwards, the lighting's in backwards. It's just so creative, and I loved it. And I love how simple the costumes were. I like that the costumes fit the character's personality. Like with Jefferson, he was over the top but not like too crazy. King George, he looked exactly how I imagined him when I heard the soundtrack. I loved I loved everybody's costumes, and I even like how the Schuyler sisters have like this color scheme going on. Angelica's pink, Eliza's blue, and then Peggy is yellow. That's very creative. Remember, I was watching this with someone, and they asked, why would they keep the set design so simple? Why don't they expand more? I think that's because the whole time the musical is focusing on the characters. The characters are making the settings change, and the dancings are making the settings change. We're imagining everything happen because we're watching the characters, the actors. We're so into it that we start to imagine the scenery to ourselves. I don't think they needed to change the set. I think they did a great job. So one flaw I probably have to address with the literary design is the transitioning because of the little to no dialogue. From one level, we're going from maybe a couple weeks, next it's been 9 years, and I'm like, wait, when did that happen? Because I'm so sucked into the performances and the music that I didn't really realize that. With Les Mis, you had maybe a transition in the set design, or they explain to you on screen like how many years it's been. With Hamilton, I couldn't tell. It was just as soon as a person said it, I was like, oh, okay then. But you know what? It's not that bad. It was just a tiny little flaw that didn't really bother me. Of course, we're going to go over cinematography, and honestly, it's shot great because the visuals are so grand. The camera knows what to focus on, and if there's like some background extra that's doing one little thing, they'll even focus on that specifically with the character. If you haven't known, one of the extras has claimed to be death itself. And I saw that when I was rewatching the movie musical. That extra who's like being there for specific moments, and the camera doesn't really try to make you notice that too much. It's just like a subtle little glance you'll see, and I wouldn't have realized that until I read that article. But yeah, cinematography is great. And here we're going to cover editing design, and yeah, it was pretty good. Didn't stand out to me like the visual designs or lyric design, but the order of the shots was pretty well done. Again, they kept the focus where it needed to be. The only issue was that little transition thing for me, like I explained earlier, which of course affected the pacing for me because, again, I didn't know when time passed. And for the songs themselves, while great, I don't know if they are placed well in my opinion, because we would go from one happy song to maybe a serious song, or like a tragic song to another happy song. I don't know if that's intentional. If it is, let me know in the comments. I would love to read that. But otherwise, ending was pretty great. Last but not least, and it's certainly the best thing about this musical, is the sound design. The music is, again, iconic. I love it so much. I think my favorite would have to be either Helpless or Satisfied, or both, since they really go together so well. But there's also Where the Room Happens, My Shot. There's so many iconic songs. I remember somebody asking me, what was that one song that really got you? And I was like, I have no idea, because all these songs are so great. One friend did mention like some of the songs were maybe felt unneeded, or needed to be placed different. I kind of see that, but like they're so iconic. The Lin-Manuel's style is there, and I love that he not only applied modern rap or modern score, but then he'll have some songs that are kind of Broadway-ish, like You'll Be Back or Take a Break, which I love. But yeah, if it wasn't for the soundtrack that I listened to, I would not have seen this musical, so I'm very happy for that. So overall, I am glad I got to watch this, because it's a great musical and it's very informative. It has great songs, and and the style of it, the look of it, it's just so grand. You can tell a lot of people put a lot of work and heart into this movie. I would totally recommend it, and if I had to give it a score, I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, aka 90%, because while I do really love it, I wasn't amazed. I thought this was going to be a flawless musical, because that's what I've heard from people who've seen it originally, but I wasn't like in tears or emotional over it, except for the last song. But you know what? It's still great, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. Talk to you again. We'll see. So let's go over the first. Sorry about that. And yes, Mona Lisa is my ringtone.